So how did I go from this?
They say the grass is greener on the other side. It must be right. There's barely any grass here. If no one cares to water the yard, water it yourself.
To this. I'm PIERRE XO, and I've lived many lives.
Emptiness isn't so bad sometimes. A glass always full loses its purpose eventually. This is my first and last book as PIERRE XO. This is a collection of my samurai death poems because I am officially quitting. But, after 2 years of the most insane extremes, burnout, I think I finally made my decision. And this is my parting gift here.
Question of the day, people. Do you think everybody should be online? Because you're creative? Do you feel like it's just enough to be online? I believe there's much more to think about, but we don't realize how important it is to have a really great and strong mindset. It's something that you cultivate along the way, the more you're showing up here on videos and any other social media, for the matter. But I think at some point we are creatives until we are faced with so many things here and judgments and comments and really taking stance on things that people maybe sometimes must disagree with. And you have to be able to keep that stand and really stay strong when it comes to it. And the point of this channel, and you've seen me being absent for a while, but it's because I'm getting to a point where I want to start talking more about what it is to be on videos, what it is to be on social media, but more so the environment of it, because truth be told, it's becoming more and more toxic. I mean, there's not other way to say it. My first person here is gonna be PIERRE XO.
Around this time, I hadn't checked my YouTube. I was still regularly posting as much as I could, but I never really checked the income because I wasn't making that much on YouTube, I'll be honest, even just 2 years in. So I didn't want to disappoint myself by consistently looking at analytics and then being bummed that this is going nowhere.
Hello people, welcome back to my channel. We're diving deep into PIERRE XO experience of being a creative here on YouTube online, what it meant for him, because I'm basing this episode on his last video where he actually shared more of his experience, how he got to be on YouTube, how he got to be that person that a lot of people started to look up to, myself included, and what it meant for him to have to leave the platform or just having to leave social media, the world of social media altogether. And if you do have a desire to be online, to understand what it is and what goes behind the scene of somebody being online or having been online and deciding to stop it, because it's not so much about just deciding to stop it. There's a lot to take into consideration when it comes to that. Being creative is really about having a mindset of helping, empowering people, and really being able to see things, observing things, and taking stands that maybe a lot of people would disagree with. PIERRE XO is an artist and a creative at heart, and it was not necessarily a specific mission for him to be on YouTube than sharing what he liked, which is dancing, which is being a poet whenever he can, but just being an artist in general. And I think most of us can relate in the sense that for me, when I started being on YouTube was literally nothing more than showing something that I love doing, which was editing videos during the Asian world or the Japanese pop music that I was listening so much back in the day. It was nothing about me being here and sharing with you the tips on being on videos, how to be on videos, how to present yourself, introduce yourself, being a very much really great persona or just great soul to show up here and talk. It was nothing like that. At that point, he was already a bit popular, but what made him be even more popular and getting viral on YouTube was for him to be a part of Jubilee shows. From that point, people discovered him more and more, and that's after that I started to watch more of his videos because it was around the pandemic.
So they came in. Promised to fix everything. Progress, they called it. And anyone who disagreed with them would be taken away. Their reprogrammings. They took me. Left you. But then, what happened to the rest of the city?
That's more like it. Now wake up, dumbass. You're drowning.
So if I needed to summarize, basically, I grew up as an only child. I was born to Vietnam War refugees and being first generation in the US. I think I had a lot of hard times growing up, trying to find my place, trying to get along with other kids, not just because of my heritage, but just because of, I think my mind and who I am was very quirky. It was interested in very, very specific things. At the same time, you know, I really wanted to belong, but not be so engulfed in the group, in the crowd and all of those things. So it was a really hard balance to try to figure out. But in the end, I didn't really feel very seen. I felt very neglected, but at an unconscious level. You know, these things don't really affect you until you're a lot older. So being at school and moving around a lot. I was never really in a stable household. Not in one place, moving from one to the next, made friends and lost them, made friends and lost them, houses changed, all these people changed, like just like constant changes, so there was no stability. I didn't really feel seen, and I had to develop a lot of coping mechanisms to adapt to the new environments that I was in.
When you grew up, especially for him, you start saying things not like everybody else, and you feel like you are the issue because a lot of people around you are not thinking like you, right? And if I have to take an example from me growing up in Cameroon, I already was fan of anything Japanese, anything anime related, although any anime related was pretty much popular at my age at that point back then. But anything that was very much different into loving Japan, the Japanese culture, the Korean culture, the Asian culture on that side, most likely was something that I was so much interested in, but around me, people couldn't understand me. They couldn't get me, actually. They were more into, why are you trying to learn Japanese? What is wrong with you? Kind of thing. And it was so bizarre for people to even understand the concept of you being intrigued into a lot of things that nobody around you would be intrigued in. And you have to develop that mechanism. If we are telling you that you're quirky all the time and all the time, this is a label that you're starting to embrace for yourself, and you're starting being that person for other people, because you understand that people might accept you that way. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's a bad thing when you are younger because you are developing your confidence. And when you are not being social, at that point, you feel like you don't belong anywhere, right? That's how I felt. We were moving a lot, to be honest, a lot. So I never necessarily understood how to connect onto a deeper level for a long period of time with people or friends, having friends, right? I always saw having friends as something that was temporary, meaning that if I didn't have them close, it wouldn't be an issue for me. That makes you isolate yourself. That makes you not trust people so much easier. Not for everybody, but it's a starting point. Something happens when you feel different. You see differently from everybody else. That makes that easy for you of seeing other approaches. I think God makes us see things those way because it might help us a lot later, but we never know when. And I think God has those plans for us along the way all the time.
In the late 90s / early 2000s here, you know, anime, K-pop, those things weren't a thing at the time. So if you liked any of these things, or you're into nerdy stuff, or even video games, let alone, I was around a time when the internet wasn't even a trendy, cool thing. If you spent time on a PC and spent extra time on the internet, you were a complete nerd.
That is so true. Loving animes, loving video games, I think that was my thing. Oh, it was, everything is so similar because I was watching animes on a daily basis. I didn't know anything else than animes. It was my thing, it was my get-go, it was my classic. City Hunter, Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, which is like probably the most popular back then. Playing video games, Lara Croft was one of my best, still is my best. I never necessarily understood the need to see other people. It was that bad. Never understood it. Anything that people would say to you, others would make fun of for things that you're watching, wouldn't matter because everybody was different. And I always saw myself as being different from the get-go. So I would know from the get-go that I wouldn't get to connect with a lot of people talking about my things. So animes, video games, drawing. My mom wouldn't let us get to go out like that. I mean, my mom was very strict when it comes to that.
Fortunately, it's not a way to develop real human connections and real human friendships and relationships and stuff. It's more of a facade to be admired. And that went directly into this line of work. This is why you're seeing my face on your screen right now.
It is a facet because you starting to enjoy so much yourself that you don't want to get out there and risk being hurt by people making fun of you. You are so scared of people hurting you so bad that you're staying away. And you don't see it that way because when you're young, there's so many things that you don't see. And something that I have to say is that I'm still a bit like that, where I would enjoy being on videos, I would enjoy being in front of the camera, talking about a lot of things. When it comes to real life, being able to get to people and go out there and reach out and talking and taking the initiative to talk to people, it's really hard. It's really difficult. It's challenging for me. Though, when I start talking to people, when people start talking to me, we get along well. I have no problem with it. I get along well with people in general, but I would not be the person to take that first step, let's say. And I love staying at home just because I don't like the idea of having to always talk to people all the time. I'm gonna start talking about the mindset, but there's a lot of things that I want to share about being online, what it means to be online as a creative, and starting to take a stand for things that you really do believe in and be very, very clear into that and why. And that's gonna start by showing more of me as a person and where I am as a lot of things happening here online. It's not about what you need to think, how you need to believe, how you can be more confident. You're gonna get more confident because of things and stand you're gonna take.
But the moment the thing starts blowing up more and more, you're gonna run into a lot of controversy at times depending on what kind of public figure you are. And in my case, let's just say, my claim to fame was, you know, just a little bit controversial. And that kind of followed me for years to come. And I'm not even gonna lie, I really enjoyed it. It really tapped into this rebellious, you know, fuck you, I do what I want, kind of like this 80s hair metal attitude of like, oh, you know what, everybody hates me, I don't give a fuck, like I'm gonna keep going. And you even see this attitude still to this day with some other influencers or musicians or famous people, but does not really sustain, especially if you are genuinely a hypersensitive, internally softer individual.
I've been in my own rebellious phase for such a while, because the more people were mocking me and making fun of what I was doing and what I was liking, the more I made a point to even amplify it more. That's why I got even deeper into being fan obsessed with Japanese culture. I went really deep into learning Japanese, being a gyaru to the style, really being to the makeup of Japanese makeup, the heavy gyaru doll type of makeup. I started building a character. When it comes to creatives, there's multiple phases where you're gonna have creatives starting being online, and really for me, I think it is a character for them to embrace, to be the person they are, because they are not there yet to show themselves. When you start building a character, it's never because you want people to get really close to you, it's because you want people to get away from you. When a kid starts throwing a tantrum at his mom or his parents, usually it's because he wants more attention. When you start rebelling, it's because you want more attention. It's not because you want to push people away. You're pushing people away because that's the only way for you to scream the desire of getting close to people. I loved manga, I loved animes, I loved the makeup, I loved the kawaii gyaru type of style. I was just gonna do more and more for people to see me and really admire what I was doing, regardless of them liking it or not. Today, I can see the difference when I'm on videos, when I'm in front of the camera. I'm not trying to get any specific attention. I'm here to talk, I'm here to share something, I'm here to share something that I think would be important for anybody stopping here and liking these videos, subscribing to my channel, and feel like they're the creative for me and for my channel, for anything that I'm gonna be talking about. Making a point more and more to not necessarily care about what people are gonna think of me at that point, but when you start being on videos for the sake of being different, for the sake of being unique, just for the sake of being unique, you are driving yourself to get the wrong attention because you're not trying to make an impact for the genuine intention. You want to affect, you want to shock people, right? In the good and the right way. Anyway, here is a way that you chose yourself to be in. But when you are getting from the rebelling phase, you building a wall. Those walls is because you're hypersensitive, and that's something that I understand that he's talking about. I do consider myself being very alert of people getting close to me.
I realized after a certain degree, all of the negative comments and all of the trolling was just too much to handle. And after the 2020 situation, I had to start reevaluating, you know, who was consuming my content and what are they really getting out of me? And then with the negative stuff, the drama stuff that I started to cover, the pop culture, the shallow stuff, and then just like constant political turmoil, social justice stuff, like, oh my God. That was the beginning when the mask started to crack, the persona started to crack, my internal stability really started to crack. And I was holding on quite well. It really did feel like digital psychological warfare. Real war is no joke, but we're in a territory where our minds are so constantly twisted and our own self-image, identity, I think it could actually be considered quite combative. It can be quite serious.
Social media is not a place where it is free speech anymore. And I'm gonna say the way it is because it's the way it is. When you start taking a stand that is not for the majority of people, you're gonna get hit really hard and really bad. And people are not only disagree with you, they're gonna try to take you down. And when he took the stand that he was taking during the pandemic, I was watching his videos and I agreed on so many things, right? So many points, but I understood what he took to even speak up about it. And I think social media is still a place where you can find people, where you can share your life, things that are funny, lighthearted. You don't need to be so deep about everything. It's not just about social media. It's about things that are actually happening nowadays. But if you are like him and you are trying to make an impact somewhere, you have things to say and things that people might not agree with, you gotta be ready to be able to handle a lot of push down that you're gonna receive, because you will receive them. And the reason why it started really being less and less on YouTube was mostly because of it, because he started understanding that not everything was for him to talk about. And I find it sad. If you feel like him, you feel like me, where you want to share things and people might not agree with, be ready to start taking that stand, because it's not about being creative anymore and being confident on videos. It's about what social media does to us as people. Understanding the environment is understanding the whole system about it.
The idea of fame is an interesting one. I did want to become famous, especially when, you know, everyone does when you're a bit younger. Everyone wants to be a rock star, a pop star, or whatever. For me, the idea of fame was my idea of finally feeling like I belonged in society. I could be as weird as I want, then have a group of people encouraging the weirdness. It was my way of finally connecting with people and eventually, hopefully, help a bunch of people through whatever it might be that they're going through.
Most creatives usually go on platforms like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, usually to impact, usually to make a difference, usually to bring something new to what they see out there. Creatives tend to really highly make important to help, make important to sympathize with people online, sympathize with people out there in general. Even if you're somebody that don't like the contact of getting to have the initiative to reaching out to people, you want deep down help people. The famous, or the idea of being famous, is much more so because it's not about you, it's about other people. But you have to be careful about it, because even if it's about people, sometimes it goes back to you for how it makes you feel around other people, because you want it to be visible, because you want it to belong somewhere. You make it a mission for you to be important for other people out there, and sometimes to the point of self-sacrificing or just sacrificing yourself altogether. It's not a bad thing, it's how you do it, it's the intent behind it, because this intent is to go back at you and feeling a certain way, and the idea of belonging go against you at some point, because it was not about saying things the way they were, making it important, the idea of belonging somewhere rather than helping because you think is a good idea of helping altogether. I hope it makes sense.
The positive stuff being you become addicted to this type of feedback, especially if you're in this line of work. When you post a video, you're just waiting for more positive feedback and validation. It becomes very, very addictive. Then you start trying to figure out how to get that next fix. How do you please this audience, these people more and more, so they give you more of that validation hit, the more compliments, the more admiration. You know, you just wanted more and more and more. And it's not just famous people, just average teenagers that understand this whole dynamic. This thing is just as strong as hard drugs. If anything, it can be just more if you get to a level of fame and publicity. This stuff is extremely powerful. It can be used for good and bad.
If you've been online, if you've been on YouTube or any other type of platform, social media related, TikTok, Instagram, and so on, where you have to show your face, and you're gonna have feedbacks from people. And no matter who you are, if you're a coach, if you're a content creator, if you're a public person, no matter where you are, you're gonna get feedbacks, you're gonna get backlash, you're gonna get great comments, you're gonna get good comments, you're gonna get them all. But when you start getting good comments, good feeling of getting great comments about yourself, how you look, what you say, how you say it, it's gonna get to a point where it becomes an addiction, because you feel important. You start filling up a hole that you haven't filled up because you were looking for that for a while. You were looking for a need of belonging somewhere, and finally you're there. You start getting to be so important that even your own ego is gonna find it hard to handle it the proper way. So you're gonna start creating more content geared towards this kind of comments, because if you get to do videos today how to style your hair, and that becomes so trendy, you're gonna start doing more of it because you got those first couple of views from there, and it's gonna start becoming more and more popular. And this is the thing with the algorithm here, right? Because when you start being on YouTube, for example, your first couple of videos, your algorithm doesn't know you yet. So you gotta start getting a couple of views, depending what you say, depending where you are, what you say, how you say it, and sometimes just the random and just a chance at that point, a lucky moment. And the moment that lucky moment comes and you start really opening the door for a lot more people to discover you, discover your content, even if it's a content that maybe you decided to give it a try, you're gonna double down on that because you know it's gonna get you the comment, you know it's gonna get you the needs that you need, you know it's gonna get you the feeling, the good feeling that usually people get from doing anything else out of social media. And the more shocking it is, the more extreme it is, the more it's gonna get views. This is how social media is today. I'm saying it because your mindset at that point is geared towards getting attention, getting views, not getting quality views, but getting views, getting to be seen. And if you're coming from a place where you're wanting to belong somewhere, you couldn't fit in your real life environment, you're gonna start put a lot more importance into the online life rather than being into the reality of it. And that's how it's becoming toxic. That's why it's becoming more toxic, because people spend less and less time with actual people. It's like big time AI. living into an imaginary life, seeing people admiring you. Even if you're not a bad person, it starts getting to your head. I have a lot of people that I know and friends, even that sometimes they are scared of getting online because they actually can understand the feeling of being seen and being like, I don't want to get there and really start being a person that I am not, because algorithm, the views and the comments are gonna get me right there. If you can't handle it, don't be on there. Not because you are creative that you have to be online, right? You have to be on social media. It's easy to get addicted to those views. It's easy to get addicted to good comments. And sometimes a lot of people start being less and less genuine because they see that happening. And they forget who they are because they didn't have a proper way of seeing themselves prior to be online, prior to being on video, prior to being on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And the more it's extreme, the more it's shocking, the more you're starting disconnecting yourself from the person you really are when you are online. That's what I think TikTok is doing more and more to the younger generation. You don't learn to be who you are, you learn to be how people's online.
I lost my interests because if I were to post martial arts and Rubik's Cube solving and skateboarding on a platform that grew up through makeup being a little teen heartthrob, it literally just collapsed any engagement or any views, and it still happens today. And that just goes into just how shallow this entire environment is. I tried to implement deeper thoughts and ideas and philosophical concepts and sneak them in and hopefully, you know, try to find a balance between the shallowness of Western pop culture plus anything that makes you reflect on things. But man, it is what it is, and you can't fight against the tide. You can't swim against the river. Realizing how much conformity and ideological poisoning and just straight up rage-induced conflict-driven communication on the internet, and what I felt like a betrayal from my own fam, from my own village on the internet, I was full of rage.
What he tried to do was to change his topic, or what made him be big in the first place. With the algorithm, usually when you start changing your niche or your topic, you're gonna get less views, right? So sometimes I would say it's not necessarily about the people being mean to you, it's about the audience that you got to begin with. And my big video that boomed was a how to style in my other channel. And when I started being big onto that, it was pretty much YouTube referencing me. YouTube decided to open the doors more for me regarding fashion only. But the thing is, if you decide after it, just like me, to start speaking and sharing more of the confidence tips into what it is to be confident, fully confident, and really being there, algorithm doesn't know you yet. Not at that level. And the audience that you actually cultivated is not about that life, because they were there for fashion. I understand where it's coming from, but I understand too that the algorithm here is gonna be the worst of them when you start changing your niche. It's not about creating another channel if you're changing your topics, but expect having a different quality of views or different reactions from changing topics like that, especially when you're starting getting deeper into ideologies and what it is to really be more deep. And I loved him for that. And that's actually what attracted me to him first. I'm changing from sharing fashion tips. People expect from me to keep sharing fashion tips. And this is where getting to be a real human online start being challenging for you, because when you're signing up to be specific to one thing, you're getting to have an audience based on that thing, which is something that people got to know him for because of the Jubilee video, right? That's how people discovered him the most. And then you start being more of a human. Something that I'm doing here, changing more and more my content. And I really invite anybody, when you have something really specific to talk about, to not necessarily start talking about it, unless this is where you're gonna go for and really stick to that. If you know you want to share more of you, as in other and different angles of your personality, regardless of what you do, right? you're gonna have to start sharing more of it. And from the moment one content start booming, not gonna be the one content you're gonna start doing. It's really important to start separating who you are offline and what you're presenting online, at least to start off, especially when it's really specific. If you start presenting yourself with various content, people see a lot more. You're not gonna get more views, right? Because it's not specific enough for the algorithm to really get to one specific thing from you. So you're gonna have less views. But that's a choice and that's a risk to take. And if you're being a creative here, it's something that you need to think about.
Broken car to the ground. Just like, hey, maybe if I stream another time, if I switch up the content, if I do more content, if I switch up the content, everything's gonna be fine. But literally every time I worked, I came down with an illness. 1 month, I got sick 3 times and one of them was COVID. My immune system just freaked the hell out. It didn't want to work anymore. It just said, nope, you're done. Even just streaming, even just trying to take streaming easy, just talking to everybody as chill as I can. One night, I had a pretty severe stomach issue on stream and I had to leave early. And I had to go to the hospital because I thought I had appendicitis. I went and got a damn ultrasound. I thought I was pregnant. I thought I saw a face in there. I'm like, I don't know, is this how it works? Nope, there was no baby. There was actually nothing at all. There was no issues. I was totally fine on a physical level, but it was a psychosomatic symptom. It was all of the stress and all of the psychological nonsense absorbing into me that I wasn't processing up here. And turns out your gut is actually super connected to your brain.
The more you're gonna ignore your feelings and your mind, the more your body is gonna give you the responses for it. Being online all the time is challenging and it's really hard. If you don't have a private life, if you don't make a separation of who you are offline and who you are online, if you're not connected with reality, usually you're gonna crack. Usually you're gonna give up everything because it's too much. You've been handling it too much and for way too long. People that actually have a separation or healthy separation with what they do online, usually they go well. They don't make social media and being online their whole lives. Never. I took a break from Instagram for weeks and I was like, you know what? I'm actually happy. And what I was doing offline was nothing big, nothing special. I was reading the Bible, I was watching a lot of videos. I was just getting curious about a lot of things that I wouldn't necessarily share online. That actually helps me as a person that I am and helps my mind, right? You don't have to be online if you don't feel like it, but make it a discipline to make a separation. That's really important, that's crucial. And it's something that you build up more and more. But don't make social media be a part of your entire life. That's the worst thing, toxic thing, not healthy thing that you can do. Quitting is a start for something else. Quitting is never the end. Quitting is a transition, is a phase, is a season of it. And from that point, you get to start again. You get to start all together with lessons that you learned previously. Every time that I would change my niche from fashion to self-confidence to videos to being a coach to who I am now, where I'm getting to a new phase of my person, I don't think and I don't consider myself being a quitter of all those things that I did before, but more so an evolution about those things that I've done before because it piled up and made me become the person I am today, being able to talk with confidence, be able to share an opinion. I don't need to build up a wall anymore. I'm here, I show up, I'm being the person that I am, I'm just talking. When you get to quit, think of it as something that's another start for you to even make it better, amplify it. When you quit, it's literally when you can't take it anymore, you give up entirely, nothing that you do after it is even worth doing. You're not doing anything after it. You're not taking action. You don't believe into anything. From the moment you have a belief, for the moment you have a way to act on it, no matter where you go, you are starting again. You're not quitting. I never quit. I never quit because I do believe that every time that I do something new or that I feel it's new, it's because it's a new phase for me. It's a new state of my evolution, wherever I'm going, wherever God is leading me. And it's not making me quit things, it's making me get better at things. every single time, every single day. And I always rely on him. I always rely on his strength to put me there, to push me more. And every time that I feel like I'm quitting or I feel like, oh, I give up on two things, it's gonna be normal. I'm gonna be like, okay, this is the moment where you have to have the grief. You have to have those grief. And it's important to have those grief, to be like, you know what, this is the moment where I'm like, cool down. You're cooling down, you're processing everything that you need to process, and then you move on. Nothing is new under the sun. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed that. It was pretty much talking about quitting on YouTube here for creatives, what it means to be a creative, being on YouTube, starting on YouTube, and quitting YouTube. And not everybody is doing that. Not every creative is doing that, but it's to show you the other side of what it is to be online, what it is to be on YouTube, and how you can go about doing something different. Today, I really lay down the path to go there and really lay down the mindset of what it is to be a creative. If you do relate to that, definitely comment down below. I'm gonna have more diverse content here, so expect a lot of unexpected things. And I don't know where this channel is gonna go. I honestly don't know, but being a coach for creatives, I start with the mindset, I start with the self-confidence of being online and having a voice for the voiceless, or just having a voice altogether. Some people are gonna agree, some people are gonna disagree, but the point here is just to bring some clarity, right? If that can help any creative out there to be more confident into taking their own stand and helping other creatives on that matter online, my job is done. It's the only thing, is the only point, is the purpose for me of being here. So expect a lot more content like that, and I'm gonna see you another day, another time for my next video. Until then, subscribe, like this video, comment down below if you felt that way, you're feeling that way, or you're looking to be more online but you don't even know where to start. And take care of yourself, and like I say all the time, smile because it's free and contagious in a good way. Bye.